Alright, so today, GIMP is my image viewer, which is, hilarious. So, I made a joke today about, and I'll put it in the title of this video, from the river to I3, Hyperland will get an audit. And there, obviously, if you've ever heard anything about Hyperland, you may have heard about their security, which I'm going to link in the description of this video, like a shit ton of reading material, and you can kind of see how Hyperland's attitude is for security, why it's hard to upstream security patches, which is kind of ironic that Vaxry himself came out on Twitter and said, talk is cheap, send patches, but people do send patches and then they don't get upstreamed. And then there's like discussion on whether or not they should fully remove Hyperlink from the distro's packaging, which has happened with Gen 2. They've talked about either star keywording it because it's like just shit security, or removing it from the Gen 2 repository entirely, as opposed to AMD 64 keyboarding it. Um, so basically, a security audit, because this is what he's asking in this question. He kind of turned it into an argument, and I don't really like to argue about this kind of stuff. So I thought I'd make an educational video, and sorry if my mic starts clipping, I haven't set all my filters and everything yet. So basically, he's asking what a security audit is, because I had said that Hyperlink needs a proper audit rather than a just somebody looking at the code. And his other comment was, oh yeah, so he had said, what is a proper audit? There is already a couple of reported CVEs. Um, Now, a CVE does not mean you have audited the program at all. Like, I can report a CVE for anything I want right now. I could have a fucking AI do it for me if I wanted to. And that you shouldn't, obviously, you should be looking at your own reports. But a CVE does not mean that somebody has analyzed all of the code. And this is why OpenBSD actually has problems with getting things like do as properly audited, because technically you can't make the claim that do as is more secure than sudo. All SUID binaries are basically inherently exploitable, but do as is supposed to be relatively hardened, you know? And the problem is, until you've actually had a security firm go out and test everything about it, you can't really make that claim, even if you're having it checked by security experts. So the answer to his question is, a proper security audit is where you get a team that is dedicated to security, usually a type of firm for this. You would have them run tests, you would have them look at every single exploit or potential exploit or bad practice in your code at all. And Hyperland actually has a lot of these, and that's what I'll link, especially due to their plugin system, which has privileged escalation problems. But it also, there's a lot of malloc and other C issues that, and like putting your stack memory as executable, it doesn't play nicely with SE Linux, and therefore this probably, you couldn't probably run Hyperland on a OpenBSD type system, so that's going to be a problem. But basically, to answer his question, because he wanted to be a dick about it, so I didn't really answer him directly. But that is what a security audit is for, like, the layman. Now, obviously, I'm not going to go into all the fucking tools you would need to do this audit, but that's, for our purposes, that's what it is. It's, instead of just looking for an exploit somewhere, you're in somebody's doorway or something, you go through their entire house and you check if everything that they have is hardened. So he said, oh yeah, so I mentioned to him, I said, because he obviously didn't get my joke, I said, if you're in any security communities, they would know what a security audit is. And he said, I don't know if I want to be in these groups if they speak or proper or real audits. Like if I personally do a security audit on some FOSS, then it's not real or proper. And I mean, he's wrong, obviously, because you do need this is why OpenBSD can't audit their own programs, is because you do need to have an external audit, and it can't just be one person finding a CVE. It has to be, like, you have to actually go through a real procedure in order to do a full security audit, and it takes a lot of time and probably costs a lot of money when you consider, like, employees' time, you know? So that's kind of, he thought that CVEs meant that it was being audited, but it really doesn't. And he would be surprised to learn that most FOSS actually doesn't go through a proper security audit, at least on a regular basis or something, because it's expensive, you know? Nobody wants to pay for that shit. Nobody wants to do it, you know? Now, that isn't to say that Linux itself doesn't get a lot of security audits, because I'm sure it does. And they have like entire hordes of security volunteers that work on just Linux specifically, you know. But all these programs that run on top of Linux, you don't know, you don't know if they're being audited. You don't know if the guy programming it is any good. So at this point, I just said, you don't know what a security audit is because you asked this question. Like, if you ask this question, it's obvious you don't know. But so he keeps asking what I meant by that, and I'm obviously not going to answer him. I'm answering him now in this video. But oh yeah, I think I was just referencing this joke. And going back to what I said about this being a proper audit or a real audit, because yeah, there is actually a standard we have to uphold in cybersecurity, and there is a difference between a real audit and somebody finding a CVE. You know, that's obvious. You know what I mean? So I wanted to dispel that a bit. I'm going to link some stuff down in the description if you want to read about why I personally think Hyprland could go for like a real security audit, because there is kind of a culture of security in Hyprland where it becomes very difficult to upstream security patches. And that was why it was ironic when Vaxru said talk is cheap, send patches, because the person he was talking to actually did send a lot of patches. And, you know, but he's a security developer, you know, so I'm not gonna name him. He doesn't want to be dragged into Vaxru's drama anymore. But basically, the entire, especially the plugin system of Hyprland, I haven't checked into their compositor, but again, this would be stuff that a audit would capture, and not something just one person would be looking at. So it will get to the point eventually, I think, where Hyprland is like called out by actual security experts, maybe on Twitter or whatever, to tell them exactly what's going on, you know, because it is a really horribly designed system. If you look through the stuff I'll link, there is a lot more. Obviously, it's just I have linked the short list, you know, where it's like the most exploitable stuff. Like there's actual privilege escalation by lower privilege users. There's problems with like there's problems with eth Linux. There's other stuff that goes on, you know, especially with executing stack memory as executable. That's bad practice. And I think he went through network manager for symbols, which is not a good idea. There's a lot of, we can go into a lot of different things about Hyprland, but this is just a quick response to Fraggle, who has made the video today. I always seem to get into arguments with Discord mods, or in one case, the Revolt mod, and because they fit into this category of confidently incorrect, you know, where they think that they're bringing a valid point to the table, but really everything they say is kind of nonsensical. And that's kind of my issue with this whole thing. Is, yeah, I mean, obviously they would benefit greatly from a proper security audit, not somebody reporting a CVE. You know, because this is stuff that does affect people. You know, like people don't realize this. They always think, "Oh, my computer's fine. It's fine. It's secure." You know, but nobody really looks into how much effort that goes into this kind of stuff. You know, and it was the same thing I commented on Jay Dink's video, where he said Hyprland was way better than Sway, and he wanted an argument against it. And I said, for all of Drew's faults, he does have a better attitude on security than Hyprland does. Where Hyprland is kind of features at the cost of maybe it'll cause a CVE. Maybe. You know, maybe there will be a problem, but we're not going to worry about it because we need to ship the feature. Whereas these other window managers do take their security very seriously. And, you know, that's the whole thing. All right, I'll see you guys later. Bye.